On New Year's 1953, early in the morning, a baby blue drop-top Cadillac pulled in here to the Skyline Drive-In.
The driver was an 18-year-old. He got out of the car, he went inside, stretched his legs a little bit, went to the bathroom. Outside, in the car in the back seat, his passenger had been asleep for quite some time. He was a 29-year-old. When the driver came out to check on the passenger, he noticed the passenger's hands were cold, and he looked to be in very bad shape. As it turns out, he had died. The passenger of that car was country western superstar Hank Williams Sr. We're going to take you around this part of West Virginia, show you all the places, Hank's final stops, and we cordially invite you to come along.
Come along. Skyline Drive-In, Hank's last stop, is written on the sign in the window. There are images of Hank, and Hank's last stop is printed on the sign above the door. It was around 6:30 in the morning when the driver, Charles, found Hank dead in the back seat of the car. Here. We are standing where Pure Oil gas station used to be. Charles stopped to ask for directions to the local hospital, and he talked to Pete Burdette.
Pete Burdette was the manager of this gas station at the time. Now, a little bit later on, when the family had to find somewhere to store that baby blue Cadillac until they could come back and get it later, they stored it right here at Pete's gas station. They stored it probably in one of the two garages that would have been located somewhere right here behind where we're standing. Now, while it was stored here, a couple things went missing. Hank's iconic hat, and also a pearl-handled .45 gun that was Hank's as well. Now, people around town said they saw Pete wearing that hat around town, and Pete said, well, Hank's mom said I could keep the hat. And whether that was true or not, we don't know, probably not. But later on, Pete's hair began to fall out, and he said that hat was cursed, and he stopped wearing it. No one's really sure what happened to the hat after that, but we do know that Pete committed suicide behind this gas station later on. Whether that had anything to do with Hank Williams, we don't know. If you know, tell us more in the comment section below. Now, people in the town wanted to save this gas station, turn it into a monument, a memorial for Hank Williams. The problem was the family wanted an outrageous amount of money, and the city said, no, we're not paying that kind of money for it. So the family came in here on December 13th, 2006. They brought a bulldozer in and a backhoe, and they tore the whole thing down.
Many Hank fans had hoped, perhaps, the gas station could have been turned into a museum in a tribute to Hank. That would have brought tourists in from all around the world. Some are still very upset to this day that the city did not make that happen.
Here's a look at the Pure Oil gas station from when it was still standing. Notice the light post on the far left and the two garages on the right side of the building. Here is where that light post from the far left side of the picture we just showed you would have been. Here is the area where the two garages were, where Hank's car was stored. These bricks are probably what's left from the area between the two garages. Then over here is where the wall stood on the far right side of the gas station.
After Hank passed away, many people in the town wanted to have a location where they could go and remember Hank. The thing of it is that nobody wanted to glorify the site where he had died.
There was a big argument between people here in the community. It went on for 5 decades before they finally got permission to put up a marker. Now, that oil station we just showed you was right over there, right across the street at the library called the Herbert E. Jones Library. They were able to put up this plaque in memory of Hank.
Hank Williams Memorial with Hank's image on it. 17th of September, 1923 through 1st of January, 1953. On the 1st of January, 1953, in Oak Hill, West Virginia, Hank Williams Sr. made his last stop on his tour. This memorial is dedicated by his fans who wish to keep his memory in music alive forever. Although Hank had a brief career, he still managed to have 11 #1 hits out of the 130 he released. On New Year's Eve, 1952, and New Year's Day, 1953, he was supposed to perform at 4 shows. However, he never made it to any of them. His first 2 shows were in Charleston, West Virginia.
They left Alabama. Now, he found a teenager, an 18-year-old boy named Charles Carr, to drive him in his blue Cadillac on up to go do these performances. The problem they ran into was it was unseasonably cold at the time in the southeast. There had been some snow. They were having a little difficulty driving. When they got to Knoxville, they realized there's no way they were going to be able to make it on time to the Charleston, West Virginia shows. So they decided to book a flight. They got on an airplane. They actually flew on out of there, headed toward Charleston. But when they got to Charleston, it was too foggy for the plane to land. So the plane had to turn back around and head on back to Knoxville. At that point in time, they realized there's no way he's going to make it to these shows. So they had to cancel the Charleston shows. But the promoter said, hey, make it the next day, New Year's Day. There's a 2 p.m. matinee show in Dayton, Ohio. So they got back in the car. They started heading through one small town after another, after another, after another, all the way on up through and into West Virginia. It was at this point in time, of course, where it was discovered that Hank Williams was no longer alive. He was actually declared dead at this hospital right here.
The hospital has been added on to since then, but this brick area was where the Oak Hill Hospital was and where Hank was declared dead at 7 a.m. on January 1st, 1953. This pharmacy right here, it used to be the Tyree Funeral Home. Joe Tyree inherited the funeral home from his father. On New Year's Day in 1953, he got a call at around 9 in the morning to come pick up the body of Hank Williams.
That would have been right over here at the hospital we just showed you earlier where Hank Williams' body was. Now, Joe Tyree said there are a lot of Williams around here, and he just figured that one of them had passed away. He had no idea he was dealing with an international country western superstar. Actually, Charles Carr, the driver, said that Joe was a big help for him as well. He put him up in one of the rooms here at the funeral home and let him stay for the night. He said he treated him like he was his own son. So that was very nice of him to do that for Charles.
Many people apparently showed up here at the funeral home to try and get a look at Hank's body. Eventually, the police were dispatched to come guard the body. The autopsy of Hank's body was performed here. The official report listed the cause of death as congestive heart failure aggravated by acute alcoholism. Joe and his assistant actually drove Hank's body back to Montgomery, Alabama.
He said on the way, he heard Hank Williams song after Hank Williams song after Hank Williams song on the radio. He said it was only then that he realized how huge Hank Williams was. I guess he wasn't really a fan at the time, but he became a fan at that point in time.
We've now made our way on over to this historical marker right here.
This was put up in 2016 by the town. It's right outside the Lively Family Amphitheater.
Hank Williams, The Last Ride. The legendary Hank Williams recorded 30 hit singles, including 7 #1 hits on the Billboard Top 10 Country Western charts in 6 years. However, his erratic behavior caused by a mixture of alcohol and narcotics caused WSM's Grand Ole Opry to fire him in August 1952. An estimated 20,000 mourners overflowed and surrounded the city auditorium on a snowy Sunday, January 4th. Within a year, publishers released 4 more songs that earned hit status. That was such a tragic day. There is something that we can all learn from the death of Hank Williams.
29 years old, a life cut way too short. Drinking, drugs were involved here. If you have a problem with those issues or know someone who does, get help and try to get them help.